I'm just a man who needed someone and somewhere to hide to keep me alive. Alejandro and Diego filled a barrel with water. The models are shaded to show the fraction of the barrel each of them filled. How much more of the barrel did Diego fill than Alejandro? Now, I forgot to put their names on there, so we are going to start by figuring out who is Diego and who is Alejandro. How much more of the barrel did Diego fill? Well, how much more means he did more. So obviously, this one's Diego. And if this one's Diego, this one has to be Alejandro. Now we're going to have to answer, obviously, in a fraction, because those are not whole numbers. Diego's is 1/3. Alejandro's is 1, 2, 3 out of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So his is 3/12. So we have to find, we're going to subtract. Now it looks weird here that we would subtract Diego's, but we would, because obviously, I'm sorry, this is 2/3, not 1/3. 2/3, no wonder it looked weird. 2/3 minus 3/12. When we are adding or subtracting fractions, you must find a common denominator. I'm going to show all the steps for finding a common denominator. So we need our least common denominator. My two denominators are 3 and 12. I take those and I list the multiples until I find the first multiple that shows up in both rows. Now, if you have a multiplication chart or you make a multiplication chart, this is going to be much easier for you to do. 3, 6, 9, 12. 12 is the first one that shows up in both rows, which means I need to change both fractions to something over 12 without changing the value. 3/12 already has a denominator of 12. So I'm going to leave 3/12 exactly like it is. 2/3 does not have a denominator of 12. It has a denominator of 3. So I need to be able to make it so that it has a denominator of 12, because we know we cannot add or subtract fractions that do not have the same denominator. So I figure out I need to multiply by a fraction that equals 1, because everybody knows if you multiply something by 1, it stays the same value. We're just changing the way it looks. So 3 times what is 12? Well, 3 times 4 is 12. If we're multiplying both the numerator and denominator by the same number so that it equals 1, I have 8/12. I'm going to always go back and look at the sign and make sure I do the correct sign. 8/12 minus 3/12 gives me a fraction of 5/12. Now I know that can't be simplified, but I'm going to show you how to check the simplification of it. So if I want to simplify, I take my numerator and denominator and I write all the factors. Okay, so let's start with 5. 1 times 5 is the only way I can multiply to get 5, or the only two numbers that divide evenly into 5. That means that's just all of them, so that tells us it's a prime number. 12, I can obviously do 1 times 12. It's an even number, so I know 2 divides into it, so 2 times 6. The digits add up to 3, which is a multiple of 3. So I know 3 is a factor. 3 times 4. Those are all the factors of 12. And since there's more than just 1 in itself, that means it's a composite number. The only thing they have in common is the number 1. If that's all they have in common, it cannot, will not, may not be simplified. So my answer is 5/12. Diego filled 5/12 more than Alejandro filled.